steps when a man suddenly appeared, standing in full sun at an intersecting alley 40 feet away. "Hawk!" I saw the gun come up and a white belch of smoke, then felt the instant tug of a bullet on the collar of my suit. Out of instinct, I drew my Colt .45 and shot twice. 2 small puffs of dust escaped from the man's shirt a fraction of a second before he went down in a heap. I holstered my pistol, then felt my collar, disgusted when I realized I could run my finger completely through the material of the brand-new suit. With a frown, I watched as several people rushed from adjacent buildings because of the sound of gunfire. Several saw the dead man in the alley and congregated there while others stood, peering from me to the dead man and back again. "What happened, Marshal?" one asked. I shrugged. Man took a shot at me, so I shot back. A small crowd surrounded the prone body of the shooter. I stepped from the shade of the boardwalk onto the dust of the alley and pushed my way through the townsfolk to see the man, wondering who he was and why he'd tried to kill a U.S. Marshal. With my boot toe, I rolled the shooter to his back. His limp body came to rest and one arm flapped to the dirt. My frown deepened as I studied the man. He was a stranger to me, but somehow I wasn't a stranger to him. After all, he called my name immediately before raising his gun and pulling the trigger. I'll be the first to admit that I'm not loved by all. As a lawman, I've made enemies. I suppose every lawman has. But who was this shooter? And what was his tie to me? What happened here? A local sheriff's deputy ran down the street. I turned when I heard the yell and noticed his ruddy face and small clouds of dust rising with each hurried footfall. One of the crowd stepped back and looked at the deputy. "There was a shooting!" He then pointed to me. The deputy turned and, in seeing me, sneered at the recognition. "Not you again. What happened this time?" I raised an eyebrow. This particular deputy and I had quarreled countless times in the past. He was quite a bit younger than me, and it seemed that he had a chip on his shoulder when anyone questioned his authority. The lines of law enforcement were blurred in Arizona territory. For the most part, the Pima County Sheriff's Department handled day-to-day lawbreaking, while the U.S. Marshal's office worked for the court, serving subpoenas, protecting judges, transporting prisoners, or tracking down and capturing escapees, or men wanted for crimes. Even though our separate duties had been outlined, the fact remained that as often as not, folks looked to the Marshals as the overarching peacekeeping force, and my fellow Marshals and I proudly wore our badges and did little to suppress that assumption. That attitude infuriated many of the deputies, and James Cartwell most of all. With a tug at the lapels of my coat, I eyed Deputy Cartwell and pointed down to the shooter. The man took a shot at me. He missed. I didn't. Cartwell hitched his own gun belt onto his hips and, with exaggerated importance, turned to the gathered crowd. "Did anybody see what happened?" Silence prevailed until one spoke. "Just heard the shots, 3 of them, but I didn't see anything." The deputy grunted, then stepped to the man lying face up on the dirt. "Any of y'all ever see him before?" No one had. Cartwell focused on me with a hint of a devious smile. "You'll need to come to the sheriff's office with me." I shook my head and pointed to the dead man again. "He shot first." "So you say, but all I have is your say-so, and not a single witness." The deputy turned back to the crowd and singled out a tall man with a store clerk's apron. "Kenneth, go fetch Doc Haverty and tell him to come get the body. Then he can testify at the inquest." I frowned. "Inquest?" "Yes, inquest. We have a dead man here in case you haven't noticed." "Yeah, a dead man who tried to kill me." Another deputy sheriff as well as more spectators joined the crowd. A dead body generally brought out the curious, and this was no exception. Cartwell, 3 inches shorter than me, took a step forward and looked up. "I'll take your gun." My eyes narrowed to slits, and the muscles in my cheeks knotted. "Like hell you will. He shot first." "If you're telling the truth, it will all come out in the inquest."